Today's guest is a star of the stage and screen. His voice, charisma and iconic roles have captivated audience for decades. But who can forget Michael Brandon as the tough, street-smart detective, Lieutenant James Dempsey? Please welcome Michael Brandon. Oh, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I mean, when we look back on that, it really was iconic, that whole series. I was so in love with both of you, and I was desperate for you to actually be together off-screen and on. I mean, did you ever realise when you first started doing it that this actually was going to be the woman that you're going to spend the rest of your life with?
That guy didn't have a clue what was going to happen.
Really?
Married 35 years, you know. It's amazing. And so still cute.
Yeah.
Different
Beautiful.
ways, but like, you know, you said rekindling, whatever.
Yeah.
She does things that just crack me up, and I think you keep laughing and you keep loving, you know.
And do you celebrate all your anniversaries every year?
Yeah.
Are you romantic?
I get the day wrong.
Oh, okay.
I always, since the day we married, I always had it one day wrong, because that's when everybody came for it, like over from America, wherever, and my friends were here, and I remember that, and I picked that day, and she says, no, it wasn't that. Oh. But she remembers everything.
Well, Michael,
And the amazing thing is, because she's a woman, she can put it in any order, and, like, I get beat. Did that happen? I don't know, you know, but anyway.
Well, you've brought this amazing book out. It's called That's All I'm Saying. It's out tomorrow, 1st of May.
May? Yeah.
Yeah, May 1st.
Wow.
So
Long time coming.
it's an incredible book. It shows how long you've been in the business. You can see how thick the book is. And there must be stories like that, so many in there from your life. And what inspired you to finally sit down and do this?
Well, a couple of things. One, there was when my dad passed away, I wrote a story called God's Laughing Now. And I sent it to the Times Magazine for that article on relations. And Robin Morgan, he was the editor. And he called me and he said, I want to meet you for lunch. And I met him at this restaurant. And he had all the pages I sent tied with a piece of leather, and he pushed it across the table. And he said, it's not an article. I don't know. You know, I thought it was funny. I thought it was moving. He said, no, that's a book. I said, well, how could it? He said, that's the chapter of the book you're going to write. And he first, you know, inspired me to get started on that. And then when the pandemic happened, I mean, well, I guess actors were the least affected in that sense, because you don't know what day it is anyway, because unless you're working, you know, weekends and weekdays are the same. I just had a little shed in the back, you know, of the house, and I would go in there and I started writing stories. And the stories were for different parts of my life, all these amazing people I had the opportunity to work with and be with, have friendships with, and I started then to connect them. And then what this book did was it gave me an opportunity to relive my life. And I only came that yesterday, it came in to my head that, yeah, you get to look back on all these things, and good and bad, you know, and they affect you, and you go, and then you have to realize, well, why did I do that? Because there were reasons that you fell in love with that person, or why you did that, or you said, I said yes. My agents called me up. I was working at 20th Century Fox as a writer. I had a script under option. And they called me in to a meeting. And these were the biggest agents in the business, you know, these guys. They sat me in a conference room that had like 40 chairs, right? And said, you know how much money you didn't make this year?
Wow.
How could I know that? So we know that, and they take out this file. You didn't do this, you didn't do this, you didn't do that. I said, wait a second. I wasn't doing a television series, and I want to do television movies. I did dozens of them, and movies and plays. And he said, well, the winds have changed. You know, that's it. It's not taboo to do television anymore. Actors do everything. And you're going to dry up because you can't do TV movies, because all the series at the time had huge casts, you know, Dynasty, you know, and all the medical shows and legal shows. And they give them all the movies you're going to get because they make them sign up for another year. It was good agenting, very good agenting. And I said, okay, so here's a bunch of pilots, see what you want. And I went back to my office. It was terrible. And then there was one on funny paper, A3, right? Or A4. What is it we use here? I forget.
A4.
A4.
Yeah.
It was longer, skinnier.
Is this Demsey and Makepeace?
Yes.
Wow. So that was the start.
And that was it. And I read this. Oh, I like this one. They said, oh, you're not right for the part. I said, well, I'm not the way it's written, but I got an idea. They said, they don't want to see you. I said, well, you're the biggest agents in the business. Get me a meeting. So they did. But there wasn't any doubt that this was a friendly meeting. They were seeing me. I stood in the doorway while they packed. And I said, look, I see this guy as a New York detective right out of the street. He'll teach this lady, Harriet, you know, the true meaning of the bard's words. You know, there's dynamics. And they left. I said, thank you for your time. And I got a call. They were coming back from the airport. They wanted me to put that on tape. And that was how Dempsey got born.
Now, I've got to ask you one thing that's in your book. In a helicopter with Joan Collins. I could not...
A minute.
You've got to get this story out really quickly.
It wasn't the Mile High Club.
Yeah,
I know.
Unfortunately,
unfortunately, it wasn't that.
40 seconds.
you were in a crisis.
It was. We both double booked that. We had Queen's tennis final, and then we had to be at this royal dinner at Alton Towers.
Yeah.
And so in tuxedos and she was dressed, and we got into the helicopter. We took off, and there was this storm, and we were getting thrown around like a fly in the wind.
Yeah. And what did Joan say?
She said, "Put this thing down." I said, you better listen, you know, and we went down on a farmland.
You and Joan Collins landed in a field in a storm.
Yeah.
So
She had high heels on.
I was so scared.
She saved your life.
She did. She saved our lives. She did. She saved our lives.
Michael Brandon, that's all I'm saying. Bye.
That's all I'm saying.